Hi everyone, this is Mohammed, and today we'll be developing an interesting and simple multi-agent project using AutoGen in Python. So here's the scenario. Imagine we want to prepare a high-quality piece of text. Well, in the simplest case, there can be just one agent. That agent can be us as human beings or an LLM. Of course, today we'll be working with LLMs. And that agent prepares a piece of text, but it doesn't know if the text is high quality or not. Maybe the grammar isn't that good, or maybe the content is not appropriate, or maybe we wish to change the tone. So how can we implement the feedback mechanism to provide feedback and revise the text? Here's where multi-agent idea, the concept of multi-agent can help us. Let's see. Well, in a multi-agent scenario, we can have at least two agents. One of them is a writer and the other is a critic. So the writer prepares a piece of text and passes it to the critic, and the critic investigates the text and provides feedback for its grammar, its content, and its tone, and so on and so forth. And then provides the feedback to the writer. The writer revises the text, regenerates it, and then this conversation goes on and on until we have a high quality piece of text and the task is accomplished. So let's see how we implement it in AutoGen. So first things first, we need to import some libraries. Since this project is so simple, we can do all our work with just AutoGen. So from AutoGen, import. We have this class conversable agent in AutoGen. As the name is self-explanatory, it represents an agent that can engage in conversations. This agent can be an LLM, can be a human, or it can be a code executor. So today we'll be just working with the LLM option, but in the next videos we'll also discover and investigate the other options, the code executor and human proxy. So from AutoGen, import conversable agent. And if this is your first few times working with AutoGen, I strongly encourage you to read the documentation for each of the classes you use. For example, we can take a look at the documentation for the conversable agent. So AutoGen conversable agent. Okay, we can see in the constructor we have a bunch of arguments. We can specify a name for the agent. We can specify a system message or when to terminate the conversation, and also what LLM config we wish to use for the agent. So let's say I want to introduce John. John is a conversable agent. Well, the name is John. And here's the system message. You are John, a writer agent. You prepare a piece of text and pass it to, let's say, Jack, a critic agent. You'll receive feedback from Jack. Once you have the feedback, you should revise and regenerate the text. Okay, so here's the system message, and then we need to configure the LLM. Well, one option is to configure the LLM right here, but since we want to use the same LLM for both of the agents, we can do it just once before introducing the agents. So for now, let's go here. LLM config is okay. So here's the structure of the LLM config. It should be a dictionary having a key of config list. And this config list is a list of dictionaries, one dictionary for each LLM. So let's say, okay, we have a list here, and we need one dictionary for each agent. So I just want to use OpenAI GPT-4o for this project. So we specify the model, which is GPT-4o. Oh, Yes, it's like this, GPT-4o. And we need an API key. So if you don't have your API key, you can get one in ChatGPT in OpenAI website. You can visit platform.openai.com. And once you have your own account, you can come to settings. And there's this API keys. Well, I have my own API key, but you can create a new one using this button. And for obvious reasons, I'm not showing you my API key. And it's a very important practice to always keep your API key separate from your code in a separate file or as a system variable. Otherwise, future LLMs, such as future versions of ChatGPT, might be trained on your API keys and might reveal it to other users. Of course, it's a dangerous thing. So I need to also import my API key. API key is, I have it in this text file. So let's read it. Let's read.strip to make sure there's no extra space at the end. So API key is going to be the API key. Okay. So we have our LLM configuration here. And now I can say LLM config is LLM config. Okay. And now let's introduce Jack. Jack is a conversable agent. The name is Jack. And here's the system message. You are Jack, a Critic agent. That's right. Good suggestion from Copilot. You receive a piece of text from John, a writer agent. Okay. You should provide feedback to John for grammar, for content, and style. For each of these, briefly provide an explanation and then suggest improvements. And I want Jack to provide a score as well, an explanation and a score from 0 to 10, and then suggest improvements. So be strict on your scores. And once all of these items are above, let's say 9, only generate, or not only, generate terminate at the end. Generate terminate at the end. Generate exactly terminate at the end. Cool. So we have our system message for Jack, and here's the LLM config. And okay, so as we can also see from AutoGen documentation, each conversable agent has a method initiate chat. So this initiate chat, as the name is self-explanatory, it initiates a chat with the recipient agent. So we should specify who receives our message, and then the conversation goes on. And we have another argument, max turns. How many turns do we wish for this conversation to go on? So each turn is one message from Jack and one message from John. So, well, I need an initial text, initial piece of writing, for example. Let's imagine this scenario. I'm a student. I don't know how to talk to my professor. So here's my initial message. Hi, prof. I don't know English as well. I don't like my score. I want to see my paper. And here's the name. What name? Let's say Alex. So we want, you see, funny suggestion from Copilot. Of course, this is a wrong suggestion. Copilot isn't well trained on AutoGen. So Okay, we want John to initialize the conversation. So John dot, this was the method, initiate chat. The recipient is Jack, and here's the message. You see, we have this message. Okay, here's my draft and initial text, and max turns will be, let's say, 4 or 5 here. Okay, let's see what happens. Python writing.py. Oh, we have a syntax error. And why is that? In LLM config. So we have this one, and okay. Oh, it's here. LLM config equals LLM config. So do we have, I guess we have, yeah, there is a missing comma here. Do we have it also here, or yeah, it's fine. So let's see. It might take a while for the first time, but after the first time, it will execute faster. Okay. So we see this is the first message. John is talking to Jack. Here's my draft. Hi, prof. I don't like my score. I want to see my paper, Alex. So we can see the feedback for grammar, for content, and for style. It has some explanation and then a suggestion to improve, and also the score. So then John receives the feedback and revises the text. You see, this is much better. Hi, prof. Last name. I hope this message finds you well. I reviewed my score on the recent assignment and have some concerns about the result. Could we possibly schedule it? Yeah, this is much better message. So then you see it's 10, 9, 9. The scores are good, and in the end it says terminate. But of course the conversation goes on, and you see they're just greeting with each other. So they're just thanking each other. So we need to specify a mechanism to stop the conversation when a condition is met. So I've specified the condition in my system message. As you remember, I've said that once all of these items are above 9, generate exactly terminate. So John should be vigilant. Once it has terminate in the final message, it should stop the conversation. So we have this argument in the constructor of conversable agent is termination message. So as you can see, it receives a callable, it receives a function, and that function receives a dictionary. So here's how it works. We should specify a function here, is termination message. And well, I can say, okay, let's have a lambda function. It receives a message, and I want to see if there is terminate in the message or not. So, well, one way to do that is to say return true if terminate in message, and don't forget that message is a dictionary. It's not a dictionary. Yeah, it might be a dictionary of, and we need its content, and we make all of the characters lowercase. So okay, return true if terminate in the content of the message, else false. So now I expect it to terminate the conversation as soon as it receives terminate. Okay, now you see, well, we had an initial piece of text. Yeah, this is it. And John received some feedback from Jack and revised the text, and then now everything is good. And we have terminate, and now it's waiting for us to provide a feedback or exit the conversation. So I can just provide another feedback and the conversation goes on, or I can say exit. And yeah, we're here. So, well, there's an additional step here. Once the condition is met to terminate the conversation, it asks for human feedback. I can also bypass that. We have another argument, human input mode. It can be always, never, or terminate. So right now the default value is terminate, but I can set it to never. So it never asks for human feedback. So human input mode, it should be never. Okay. Now, if I execute it once more, we can see that it doesn't ask for human feedback when the termination condition is met. Okay, you see, no asking for human feedback. So this was how you can implement a multi-agent project using AutoGen. You see, it's so simple. You can easily introduce each agent, and you can provide a system message to specify its role, and you can specify when to terminate the conversation. I'm sure you can find other applications when two agents can engage in a conversation and accomplish a task. So in the next videos, we'll be exploring other options for each agent when an agent is a code executor or a human proxy. So until next time, take care.